Alright, I just realized that I'm feeling pretty okay. Not as good as I was earlier, but I figure we'll see what happens with the this whole leg lift challenge. So let's find out. I guess I'll do it like he did, so there's a basic comparison. I guess I'll just keep talking too, because I'm not going to be moving, so I don't want people to sit there and think, oh man, he's just sitting there faking it. It's a bunch of crap. So I have absolutely no idea how long this will last. I haven't trained for this at all. This isn't part of what I do. I think the last time I did this was hell, it bugs really with class 246. I was a 245 and 246. I had that accident with the logs of 245, and I ended up getting some pretty bad nerve damage in my left shoulder, the brachial plexus. They never quite figured out what it is. To this day, they don't actually know what happened. And what is that happening? I ended up getting rolled into 246, and when I realized that I just couldn't even hold my my arms up when I had a tight-fitting shirt on, I realized, I'm not going to be able to do anything with the vest or ammo or anything, because my arm goes to sleep like instantly. And at that point I realized that I really wasn't going to make it, and at that point all I could do was hurt myself even worse than I already was. And that wasn't very appealing, so I went ahead and left, and then I spent the rest of my time in the Navy out in Japan, where for a long time I had entertained ideas of going back, but as the years went by and I realized, my shoulder really wasn't getting any better, that part of my life was over. That was tough. That was pretty tough. It took me a long time to get over leaving, even though, I really didn't have a choice. Kind of thing's not an easy thing for anyone to get over, and there's any number of ways that somebody could take things like that. For me, I just felt like I was letting myself down, which was weird because I had no problems there. I had a good time. I didn't think it was too bad. So, and that was the worst part, is that when something's really tough and you quit, I think it's a little more justifiable. And as hard as it was, and as beat as I was at the end of the days, I just don't think that, I wasn't pushed all that far towards my limits physically, and that's not what it's there for. You get pushed mentally, and I had been colder than that. There was one time when I wasn't quite 16 yet, and I had spent a couple of years in school over in Israel, not a couple of years, a couple months, and this is getting difficult, so it's hard for me to concentrate, but I had spent a couple months over in Israel, and when I came back, I joined a semester course where I walked the Appalachian Trail and got school credit. It's pretty sweet. So when we got into North Carolina, we ended up spending the night on top of where we were up in Mount Roan. It was horribly cold. It was like a little over 0 degrees, and had to slide on our butts about 2/3 of the way down on the mountain trail because everything was ice. So anyhow, we ended up doing the rest of the hike soaking wet, because I think it was a couple days after that we were crossing a river, and it wasn't an easy crossing, and so we were all holding hands. One person fell, the rest of us fell. We didn't have our clothes wrapped up in watertight bags or anything, so everybody's clothes got soaked. And with everybody's clothes being soaked, this was a bad deal. It was the beginning of November. It might have been the end of November. I don't remember. It was sometime in November. You know, when you don't have anything to do except walk, days and weeks run together. So anyhow, we had rain on and off all day for the entire 2 weeks from there to the next town. So there was no getting dry, there was no getting warm. You know, we all slept together under a pile of blankets and wet grass, or wet pine straw, or whatever else we found. There were no lodges. I mean, it was terrible, you know? And nothing at Buzz was that bad. So I had a pretty strong basis for comparison, and, you know, I was lucky. You know, most people really get messed up by the cold. And don't get me wrong, you get really, really cold. But I had also spent, from November to February in Virginia Beach. And we were attached to SEAL Team 4 doing scruff duty. And let me tell you, Virginia water in the middle of winter is colder than California water any time of the year. It's awful. I mean, on Christmas Day, they had us, those of us who weren't on vacation, they had us go out, and Master Chief had us get neck deep in the water. Water was, I mean, right at freezing. You know, what fresh water would freeze that anyway. Salt water doesn't freeze that at that high of a temperature. And we had to sting reel off the red-nosed reindeer. And I remember one of our guys was like 5'7" and 150 pounds. And, you know, when you're that small, you just lose heat really quickly. And he was shaking so hard that, you know, he was in the water with those of us who were like 6 feet and, you know, taller than him. And so he's like hanging on to two of our shoulders, shaking so hard that water's splashing into our mouth. And we're all shaking pretty good too. So, I mean, we were all miserable. And it was just awful. Funny as hell too. We had to get out, had to do a headstand on the beach. Hair froze to the sand. We went on a 6-mile run, and that was all they had us do that day. But you know, when you get a lot of experiences like that, the cold of the San Diego water just, it doesn't have the same fear factor. Probably see my legs starting to shaking out. Hip flexors are pretty sore. But I have a day off tomorrow, so I figure, hey, let's see what I can give you. I have no idea how long this is. I'm not on a timer. I'm getting off close to that box. You know, a lot of this stuff is about how much pain you're willing to deal with. And not so much about what your muscles can or can't do. You'd be surprised. I think we're getting pretty close to the limit. Keep in mind, I'm younger than a lot of the guys doing this. I'm 29, almost. Oh, I think that's whatever it is.